I think you're very right. I think something also, perhaps you were mentioning before that I would like to ask you again, is the different perception of right and duty. You know, we in the West, with a lot of fatigue and often contradicting ourselves, and after having done a lot of disasters, we are right to contribute to this kind of declaration of the right, human rights. But, but are they so universal, and are so much authentic the Western nations in stressing what they think is the human right as universal rights? And are they linking properly rights and duties?
Like in the West, for instance, when we talk about rights, some of these rights are embedded in documents that we consider sacrosanct, very sacred. For instance, like the right of the child, universal child, the right of the child. Okay, let us come back to Africa. At times, we have the notion that there are no rights, but what we do allow. I have my home. I have to uphold the rights of my children. I have to dictate the rights of the kids. I know what is good for the kids. If you look, for instance, like in the Western world, kids normally go to school with guns, pistols. In cases like Germany, a school pupil shot teachers, and that is why in the Western world, so many teachers are running away from the classroom. But in our society, we use the rod, we use the cane and beat the hell out of the child, because we are not there to just inflict punishment on the child. But there are certain things in the child that ought not to be in the child. And these are the things we want to remove from the child. And the only way the child can understand that is by beating that thing out of him or her. You see? So Africa, we have our own culture that is very, very unique. Unlike the West, you give so much freedom to the kids, so much freedom, to an extent that they misuse this freedom. But we here, they have their freedom. But also, you fail to understand that your society is a welfare society. The state do care for the kids. But us, the poor man in the farm, will have to go and sweat it out and take care of his kids. You'll have to provide food for the kid. It is not the responsibility of the government here. But in your own society, it is the state responsibility for the upbringing of the child. Other thing that you've done to our society, which some of these kids are trying to imitate, when you continue to pronounce the rights of the child. When some of us were coming up, when a child is born in any society, it is the responsibility of the community. It's a communal responsibility. It is the community that takes care of the child. So you have to do everything to please the society, to please the community in which you are in. Somebody else, apart from my family circle, if I happen to misbehave in the public, that person will call me and thrash me, just to inject into me some of the good virtues that will be responsible for my good upbringing. But today, the Western idea, the Western concept of the rights of the child has gone so down into the kids to an extent that if you do make an attempt to talk to this child when he or she misbehaves in the public, that child will seriously embarrass you. So you see the clash of culture. It is African that a child that is born in a particular environment is the responsibility of the community to bring up that child. But some of these things are sorrowfully lacking in our society. They're effaced from our society because of the Western idea of the rights of the child. So if we have to revisit our culture, what are these rights? How should we allow the kids, to become proper citizens of tomorrow? But if they continue to imitate the Western idea, then our society will go down to the lowest ebb. And now you see our kids imitating people like Tupac, Shabba Ranks. And even if Tupac doesn't take a bath, our kids will also follow it. Say, Tupac doesn't take a bath, so also I will not take a bath. You see them going to school with Shabba Ranks, with their trousers down their hips. You see, these are some of the issues that we are not African. Now they are copying the Western ideas, Western themes. They are copying it. And so the Western culture is eating gradually into our society, destroying some of the fundamental issues that we are very, very African. This is a rich culture, very rich African culture, respect for elders, respect for authorities. And some of these things are facing away from our society. Now you see about gangs. We have gangs in our schools, gangs in the institutions of higher learning, gangs, at the universities. This is because of what they are copying from Western films, Western movies, Western ideologies. Except you people have to allow us to think Africa, that we have a very rich culture. Let us appreciate our culture. Until that is done, they will move forward. Any society the world over that neglects its culture, that society is bound to fail. Europe, America, they have their own culture. And the culture of any society is the basis, is the bedrock upon which that nation must be built. So if you neglect that culture, you condemn your culture, especially a very rich culture, that society is bound to collapse. That is why so many African countries, they are bound to collapse, because they neglected very, very rich culture, which is responsible for their development. So the Western influence, both Western education, Western culture, that is gradually coming into our society, is also responsible, for the cultural demise in which we are faced with. Let the Europeans follow their culture. Perhaps they can come to Africa and learn some of the goodies that are in Africa. And we too can go and learn some of the good things. But the rights of the child that have destroyed Europe and American children, we personally, I totally condemn that we must give them total rights. We have to determine the rights of the child. Nobody will ever love my kid more than the way I do, because I am responsible for his upbringing. Like us, in your own society, when somebody is old, you've been paying your taxes, so you go to the old people's home and abandon them there. But it is our culture for our parents. When they are old, they want to be with us. We show them the warmth, we show them the love, that these people, even at this age, we should give them the love. Perhaps that will help them to, continue their life. But if we do follow the Western culture, Western ideas that are totally unacceptable in our own culture, then we are bound to fail.